Valentine's Day coming, which means a lot of you are going to need to use more soap. Cleanse yourselves, please. Because a romantic candlelit dinner isn't complete without a plate of scrumptious chocolate-covered strawberries, I'm going to make a loaf of scrumptious chocolate-covered strawberry soaps to wash away those dirty, dirty compulsions. Speaking of which, I want to throw some real dark chocolate into the soap because why not? Let's go plan it. For my Valentine's Day soap, I had to think to myself, what best represents budding romance? And the answer was obvious. Taco Bell. But to spare you from the existence of a Taco Bell soap, I'm going with the classic. Chocolate-covered strawberries. I'm going with the frosted design today because my brain said so. And this is going to be a layered soap, with a decadent angular chocolate brown bottom. Angular because romance is an everlasting slope you're either climbing up or rolling down. The rest of the soap will be a marbled swirl of varying shades of pink and pink and also red, to resemble the color of someone's cheeks when they're blushing profusely, I guess. That will be the strawberry portion of my soap. The frosting is going to be pure white, and I'm going to top the soap with some heart-shaped embeds that I'm going to try and splatter some gold mica paint onto, as well as a delicious red mica strawberry drizzle, and some pink and white edible sprinkles that have been in the pantry for a year because I buy things and can't commit to them. That brown chocolatey layer, of course, is where the dark chocolate is going to go, and in hindsight, adding the chocolate almost ruined the soap, and I'll explain why later on. First things first, we gotta make some hearts. With all my embeds, I use clear, no sweat melt and pour soap base from Voyageur Soap and Candle. Using a no sweat base is crucial because here in the city of Vancouver, the air on average is actually 100% water. Glycerin is a natural byproduct of soap making, and a standard cold processed soap recipe will contain around 7% glycerin, but standard melt and pour bases can contain 2 to 3 times that amount. That's a problem for making embeds because glycerin is a humectant, which means it likes to hold onto water and suck it out of the air, causing it to sweat and look like it's covered in fresh morning dew. No sweat melt and pour bases prevent those pesky glycerin beads and keep our embeds nice and dry. Time for those pre-heart chunks to go into the microwave, and my molten soap is ready. I actually prepared way too much, but it's always better to make too much than too little, as a wise Jeff Bezos would say. To color my hearts, I'm using a blend of rosy red mica and crimson heart mica, and that should give me a really rich, deep red color. As a soap maker, it's actually really difficult to find a really good red coloring. Almost everything leans either too pink or too orange. To mend that problem, we've got to work some magic with our dear wizard friend color theory. If we look at the cyan, magenta, and yellow color wheel, aka the true primary colors, come for me, we can see that the yellow and magenta combine to make red. So all you need to make a great red is a nice neutral yellow and a vibrant pink. Alakazam, your woes of being redless have been put to rest. I just have to hop in and comment that the way mica swirls around in melted soap is just delicious for my retinas. 10 out of 10 would recommend the experience in person. I got this pretty heart mold from Michaels for around $6 Canadian with their discount. The hearts are a little smaller than I'd like. I prefer my embeds to be around 1 inch wide, but these are around 70% shorter, I guess. I'm okay with that though, because falling short is my bread and butter jam. Ew. Now allow me to just bloodify these hearts really quickly. Any excess soap gets poured into a silicone cupcake mold to be put in the soap closet and forgotten about. I've got a set of 15 hearts, which means if I'm a Hylian boy named Link embarking on some sort of adventure involving Princess Zelda, then I'm doing pretty dang well for myself. These hearts came out splendidly. They look just like cherry candy. Speaking of candy, I went on a rant about peppermint candy in my peppermint soap video, but you know what? There's a runner-up candy to add to the Hall of Candy infamy, and it's cinnamon hearts. Now, I love cinnamon. Cinnamon buns are like my favorite method of raising my cholesterol. But cinnamon hearts are just fiery little rocks of torment. You know, just in general, Valentine's candy for me ain't it. I don't like cinnamon hearts, I don't like conversation hearts. If it's a heart shape and I can eat it, I probably won't like it. I have it down to a science. I need to glam these hearts up with some gold, and to do that I'm going to make some mica paint with isopropyl alcohol and some super sparkle gold mica to make the paint of Cleopatra's dreams. There's no real method to what I'm doing. I just pour some alcohol, play with it, think, oh that looks good, and then add some more alcohol anyways. It sounds a lot like my Friday rum and coke. Since I'm doing a splatter effect, I want the paint to be pretty loose, but not as loose as I made it here. You'll know the paint is too loose when the mica is sort of drawn to the edges of the stroke as it dries, which is exactly what happens in this case, but I actually kind of like the look. Now the real challenge was getting the paint to actually splatter on the hearts. I mean, look at this. This is a statistical anomaly. Here's a gold splatter heart and here's a red heart. I prefer the splatter because that red and gold just works so well together, so that's what I'm going to use for my soap. Speaking of which, let's go make it. I have my oils and lye water at 30 degrees Celsius today. I'm soaping a little cooler because I'm using a fragrance that has a reputation for separating soap batter, and what all the strangers said online is that soaping cooler helped prevent the separation, so I'm going to do as the Romans do. This is the part where the skin eaty liquid and the skin slimy liquid meet and fall in love. Now listen closely, you remember how I said the chocolate almost ruined the soap? This was the first mistake I made. I should have reserved a bit of that lye water solution. I'll discuss why when I add the chocolate. I apologize for my autofocus because it had a whole pot of coffee earlier and just cannot focus on the task at hand. But if we just pretend that this is 2009 era YouTube, then this is pretty good quality footage. Despite soaping cooler, my batch traced very quickly. And that's because I forgot that this was a quarter batch, which means I really should have blended for a quarter amount of the time, about 10 seconds or so. I have a lot of colors to work with today, so that was the second oops I made. Based on my design, I'm going to separate 1/3 of my batter for the chocolate layer. I want to be pretty precise with the weight here. Now I'm going to add my melted chocolate. This is just a few bricks of 70% dark chocolate, and when doing the calculations, I realized that adding this chocolate makes my oils 10% chocolate, which is a terrific selling point for uninformed, hungry people. By the way, if you want me to put my precise measurements, just let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like me to do, because normally I don't really discuss my quantities. Now let me just pause for a minute because this is the focal point of all the problems accrued during the making of this soap, the chocolate. Now there's nothing inherently wrong with adding dark chocolate to soap. Cocoa butter is a popular fat to use in soap, cocoa solids are a popular additive. The problem lies in the lye. See, cocoa butter saponifies. It reacts with lye to make soap. This is why I needed to, but neglected to, reserve a bit of the lye water solution for this portion of my soap. But since I didn't, that means that my chocolate portion is going to contain 9.5% superfat, and my strawberry portion will contain 0.5% superfat. If you didn't watch my video where I make the cheapest soap ever, I explained the significance of superfat there, but in short, it's generally recommended for soap to have 5% superfat. So, I don't want to, but I'm going to have to do the zap test with the strawberry portion to ensure it's not lye heavy. Anyways, big oops. Back to the soap. Along with my genuine chocolate, I'm going to be adding some fake chocolate. This is simply chocolate from New Directions Aromatics, and it smells like the chocolate cake from Matilda. I also pre-mixed some brown oxide and black onyx mica to get a nice fudgy brown color. I pre-mixed all my colors today because it's time consuming, and I made the soap at 7 in the morning before heading to work, so you're just getting some iPhone B-roll for the coloring shots. I'm going to blend the chocolate to get it nice and goopy so I can layer it without having to wait around since the rest of my soap is rapidly tracing. Valentine's Day is the one day of the year where my heart grows 3 sizes, not because of my love for those I hold dear, but because of the exorbitant amount of chocolate I consume that day. I'm just using some embed molds to prop the loaf up so I can get that nice angular look, and now my chocolate's ready to pour. I'm dividing the rest of my batter into 3, and I'm coloring them varying shades of red and pink. One portion will be my classic crimson heart mica mixed with a little coho shimmer mica to lighten it up a bit. The next portion will be a nice rose quartz with some titanium dioxide to make a pale pink color. And the last will be a vibrant rose quartz, which makes a beautiful fuchsia color. Mixing them all up, I realized the pale pink was just pink. It's pretty much indistinguishable from the rose quartz, so I added a generous helping of titanium dioxide to try and lighten it up some more, but I made the mistake of not blending it in with my stick blender. Oxides are notorious for being difficult to blend and distribute cleanly, and using my dinky little coffee frother wasn't gonna cut it, but oh well. Oops number 4. For the strawberry portion, I don't actually show the label on camera, but I'm using the strawberry fragrance oil from Voyageur soap and candle. This fragrance apparently discolors slightly yellow in cured soap, which is actually going to work in my favor because all it'll really do is saturate the redness present in these pinks. Like the review said, this fragrance is notorious for causing separation, and separation is probably in the top tier of worst things that could happen to your soap, because in most cases it makes your soap unsalvageable. So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping for the best, but I really like this strawberry. You know what it smells like? It smells like someone who just discovered what lip smackers are, and they've smothered it all over their luscious lips.
Cherry flavored. Want a taste?
Just the fakest, most counterfeit strawberry smell you could think of, and I love it. So with the lip smacker strawberry and the Matilda chocolate, it kind of smells like a 13-year-old watching their mom bake a cake. Or if you're a normal person, it smells like a chocolate-covered strawberry. Stirring the fragrance in, it doesn't seem like there's any separation, so that's a pretty good start. It doesn't seem to be accelerating the batter or anything, so that's all good. I'm gonna toss all these pinks into the same pot and perform my coveted pot shake technique. Because the batter is basically pudding at this point, they're not going to pot swirl the way I want, so I had to force them to mingle a bit with my spatula, and now that they've warmed up to each other, it's time to give them some chocolate. But I'm going to block the process with my bowl. You're welcome. From this angle, you can kind of see that the poison pudding has the texture of applesauce, and that's because it is separating slightly. At this point, there's nothing I could do except wait it out, and watched batter doesn't saponify, so I'm going to prepare my frosting. My process for making frosting is basically just to blend until my blender begins to struggle, and then wait it out and stir every few minutes. It usually takes around 15 minutes to get to a pipeable consistency, and I know it's ready when the soap resembles Betty Crocker icing that comes in the tub. So thick enough to pile on top of itself, but thin enough to form little ribbons. If you do this yourself, you could of course wait a little longer, and that will give you more control over your frosting, especially if you're using a tip that gives the frosting texture, but I'm just going for a pillowy look for today, so I don't need to worry about that. Let's take a look at our loaf, which, fingers crossed, is not a pool of oil. Oh no. The soap looks perfect. I had you there for a second, didn't I? The fragrance today was on my side and caused no disturbance, although it was looking a little freaky a few minutes ago. Here's a tip: if you like to frost your soaps, please reuse your piping bags. Just let the batter inside saponify, and after a few days it'll basically just clean itself under hot water. There's no reason why you need to be using a new piping bag every time you frost. Literally anything, cake, soap, cookies, reuse the piping bags until they break on you. The environment and your wallet will thank you. I've mixed up a little red mica drizzle. It's essentially a portion of my oil blend mixed with some crimson heart and rosy red mica, and I've allowed it to cool so it'd be nice, thick, and drizzly. And does this not look like ice cream and strawberry sauce? Absolutely delicious. I didn't mean for it to be, but I'm patting myself on the shoulder right now. Those heart embeds are dying to go on top, but only 4 are going to be used, so the other 11 can wallow in self-pity. Last but not least, not gonna lie, I've never understood that saying, it's time to add our sprinkles. These are an overpriced sprinkle blend that I got on clearance at a specialty bakery store, and I wonder if these little sugar pellets ever thought their destiny would be to sit on top of a bar of soap. Let's be real here, if it can go down the drain and it doesn't hurt your hands, it's probably okay to go on your soap. My little loaf of Valentine delight must sleep and saponify, and then it'll be ready to cut. I let my loaf sleep for a couple days for no other particular reason than I was lazy and I didn't feel like cutting it. Because it sat for longer than usual, my soap isn't very sticky, which makes me happy. I'm gonna cut off this end piece right here, and now we can see what the inside looks like. My creation. I made something pretty. I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. That chocolate layer turned out basically perfectly, and I was worried the strawberry section would be a bit too swirly, but on cutting the soap I can see it's just shy of being so. The fragrance is okay. I think it needs to cure a little longer. Fruity fragrances can sometimes be a hit or miss when they're in soap, because sometimes they adopt this strange gelatin sort of smell. Sometimes the weird smell goes away, sometimes it doesn't. Now, the frosted bit is my favorite part. I literally just want to take a chomp out of it. I can admire the soap all I want, but that won't matter if I can't use it. I've got to do the zap test. So, I performed the zap test for the soap, which essentially means I licked it, and if my tongue gets a zap, then it means the soap is lye heavy and unsafe to use. Luckily, my soap felt like licking a dirty bathroom mirror, which means it passed the test and is safe to use. Because of this, I'll have learned nothing at all and will continue to panic during stressful situations. Let's go to the product shots. I love this soap. It's hands down one of my favorites that I've made. However, I would change two things with this soap. First is I would fix the pale pink layer because I blended it with my dinky little milk frother. The titanium dioxide didn't disperse completely, so you can see these little white snowflakes all over that layer. Doing this in the future, I would just blend it a bit more with my stick blender. And second, I would apply a thick golden mica line to separate the chocolate and strawberry layer. That would tie the whole gold speckled heart thing I have going on really well, and I think it would just make the bar look even better. Now, despite my chocolate portion having too little lye and my strawberry portion having more than I'd prefer, I think it's actually the perfect representation of what romance truly is. Two extremes just sort of canceling each other out and amalgamating to become the perfect ratio.
Metaphors.
I named this soap Crush because Crush sounds like it'd be the name of a pretentious and expensive bougie fragrance that would inevitably end up sitting on top of someone's toilet tank. Or alternatively, you could fool people into thinking that you have a real crush and that they smell like chocolate covered strawberries, clean your hands for you, and last 1 or 2 months depending on how much you use them. In any case, that was a soap journey with the soap universe. Thank you for watching and subscribing. Bubble bye.